Hi, my name is Tim. I'm from a band called Utah Saints, and today I'm just going to give you a quick little tour of our studio and show you how we made some of our early hits as part of our Sounds to Sample for Beatport Sounds and our little sample pack that we've made. So this is our starting off our original sequencing computer which we used, which is an old Atari 1040 covered in dust, which we've got up especially for today. Basically, this is just running Cubase, and this was purely a MIDI controller, so no audio at all. And it would be MIDI in and out, which would be linking to all the other outboard instruments in the studio. But this is a very, very early edition of Cubase. Okay, so this is our key bit of equipment that we really used on all our singles, really, which is an Akai S3200 sampler. The actual sampler which we used on What Can You Do For Me and Something Good the first time round was an earlier version of this, and this is the upgraded 32 megabyte All Guns Blazing model that we got, which at the time cost an absolute fortune, and now is probably worth about £150 if that, if we were to sell it. But it is switched on, but the light's gone, and this is what we used to record all our samples straight in off the turntable or CD straight into here. Now again, that's linked to the Atari, and but this is what we created most of our sounds, because we had quite limited gear, so we had to create all our sounds in that. Underneath the Akai, we've got just 4 compressors, all doing the same thing. And you see, back in the day, you had to have one of everything, whereas now you can just add multiple plugins doing the same thing. So we had to buy 4 compressors. We've got a little gate here, which just we used quite a lot on our guitars and stuff early in the day. And this is a subharmonic synthesizer which we put our kicks through, and then generally we put the whole track through at the end to give it a real sort of big oomph and kind of warm feeling. And underneath we have a rack full of vintage keys, Morpheus. These just do kind of a general all round really. And they replicated a lot of even older analog synths. And the base station was basically a 303 emulator, and the super base station, which came out after, had the sub built into it. So this is actually the super base station we've got here. And then we've got the Yamaha RM50 for the drums, and then a Quasi MIDI, which again was good for like old school ravey sounds like your Hoover sound and stuff like that. So, and then below that, these are extinct now, which no one really uses, are DAT machines. So and then moving on over here. Okay, so over to our keyboard stands, and what we've got here at the moment, we've got original 909, and this has got some history to it because we actually brought this off a band called Blancmange, who the older people out there may remember. We were a band from UK, and they had some quite big sort of electro pop hits back in sort of mid 1980s. So we brought this drum machine off them, and then we've had this for quite a long time. We've also actually lent this to Jeff Mills when he came over to do a gig in Leeds, and he needed a 909. So it's been about, and it's seen quite a lot, this drum machine. Below that we've got the J800. We use this on our second album a lot, and it's just really good for. We had a friend in who was a really good programmer, and he showed us how to make some really good sounds on it. So we use this on our second album. Then we've got the classic Korg 01W, not to be confused with the M1. We never actually had an M1. We used one in the studio, but we had the 01W, which we used mainly for the string sounds and the piano, which the piano on Something Good was done on this, which has a great rave sound piano. Then that's the base station keyboard controller, and then moving over here we've got the Nord lead as well, which is that was the first generation Nord rack which came out, and had some great sounds on. We brought one of these when they first came out, and it's quite cool. This we didn't use it obviously on any of our records, but we bought it for DJing. And this was around about the time when Pioneer brought out the first CDJ, Technics brought out a CDJ, and Newell brought out one. At the end of the day, the Pioneer one was one which kind of everybody ended up using, was industry standard, but we always quite like this because we're both from the old school turntable DJing, so yeah, we quite like the fact that it had actually a real turntable on the top. But yeah, getting back to the equipment side of things for our earlier hits, this is the Oberheim Matrix 1000, which we used on, yeah, probably used this on What Could You Do For Me, I think. And the cool thing about this, it had basically 1,000 sounds, and they're kind of all over the place, and weren't really catalogued in any particular order, so you just had to go through and flick through it until you heard a sound that you liked. And we've got TC Electronic Effects Unit. This was Sansamp, which was wicked for just guitar effects, but we ended up putting drums through it. Same with the Zoom as well, which was great for putting drum loops through. And then we've got the Korg MS200, 2000, which we brought this probably out for our second album. Yeah, and it's got quite a cool little vocoder sound on it, and quite a lot of good sort of trancey sort of sounds on, if I'm allowed to use that word, on this. Yeah, good trancey sounds. And then another Zoom, and that's an old Steinberg Mid-X thing, which linked all the MIDI stuff together in the studio, just so because we had we were quite lazy in the fact that we had everything linked up all at the same time. So yeah, this was a good sort of chain thing. It had about it's got 8 ins and 8 out. Then we've got some more MIDI verb, which is a good reverb, another reverb, and then we've got the legendary Yamaha TX81Z, which I think we used for the bass line on What Can You Do For Me. There's a good little preset in that. So generally with these things, you kind of found one preset that you kind of like, so you kept that and you kept going back to that. So we go to the pianos for the Korg, or we go for the bass line for the Yamaha, and yeah, so that's it.